This demonstration is going to show you how you can take part of one image, such as the starfish that you see here, and move them into a second image. So again, we're going to be working with two images at the same time. So let's begin by starting with the starfish image. What you first want to do is find some of your selection tools. And if you hold over the lasso tool, you get a couple options. So for me, I like to use the magnetic lasso tool. And the nice thing about it is if we're going to try to trace around certain objects, if I click and release and then just sort of run my mouse along the outside edge of an object, it'll automatically attach itself to the outside outline of it. Now, if it is having trouble in one part, you can actually click and create these small squares called anchor points. And that'll keep it from sort of moving to select an area that you don't want it to. So I'm going to keep going along this edge so that I can select just these two starfish for now. Now, when you finish your selection and you've come around to where you've begun, you'll notice that there's a small circle in the lower right hand area next to your pointer. So right now I'm off of it, and then when I connect, you'll see that circle keeps popping up. So when you see that and you click, that means it's going to close that selection and it's going to complete it. You'll then start to see a small or a moving line around these. Now what you're going to want to do is bring your tab down so that you can see both photos, and you're going to go to the Move tool in the upper left hand corner. If you notice, when you put the Move tool in within your selected area, it's going to show some scissors next to your arrow. That shows that it's ready to cut that part of the photo and move it for you. So if you click and hold and drag it into your other photo and release, you're going to see that it's here. And right now I can click it at the moment and I can move it around. But I'm going to show you in a second how you can resize this because these are way too large. But I do want to focus your attention over here. You're going to notice that you have a couple things called layers. Every time you add in an image or something separate, you want it to be on a different layer. So right now you have layer 1, which is your background layer, and this eyeball here means that you can see the layer. If you click on it so that the eyeball disappears, the layer will disappear. So if I click on there, all that background, the water disappears. I can then click the eyeball again, or where the eye is supposed to be, and see it. Layer 2 is my starfish. So if I click on the eye again, those starfish will disappear, and when I click it again, they'll show up. The whole idea is that if I want to do anything to these starfish, whether it's resize them or make them a different color, I don't want to accidentally do something to the background. So what I can do is click on that background layer, or layer 1, which is the ocean, and I can go up to this lock. And if I lock that layer, let's see what happens. I've clicked on this layer, so that layer's highlighted. Let's say I go over to the pencil tool and I try to draw on this layer. Well, if you notice, there's a circle with a line through it. That means I can't do anything to that layer. This is really great if you have a layer that you don't want to accidentally do anything to, or maybe you've worked on it and then that layer's finished, you don't want to do anything. But let's say now we want to start resizing these starfish. I'm going to click on layer 2 because that's the layer with the starfish. And again, if I go to that Move tool, I could still move these around. But what we want to do is resize it. So if you go up to Edit, I know you can't see that in the screen, but it's up there. If you go to Edit, Transform, Scale, you're going to notice that it gets this box around it with what's called anchor points. These are the points on here that'll allow you to move things around. Now, when you're resizing something, if you just click on one of those, you can move it all around and it'll distort it and make it look really weird. I haven't released the mouse yet. All I did was click and hold, and now I'm just dragging the mouse around. But if I hit shift as I am right now and then keep dragging the mouse around, you'll notice that it can get smaller, larger, and it doesn't distort the image. So right now I'm gonna shrink these to about the size that I'd like to see them and let go. Now I can kind of move these where I want, and then hit enter so that you're done. So now again, you could still move them around, but now they're the right size. So at this point, these look great size-wise, but we really want to help blend them into the background. And considering these are underwater, it might really help to make them look a little bit see-through. So I'm still on layer 2, which is the layer with the starfish. And if you go up to something called the opacity over here, right now it's at 100%, which means it's not see-through at all. But if you click on that arrow, it'll give you a slider bar. And I'm going to click on that slider bar and move it to the left. If you look at the starfish as I do this, they're going to become more and more see-through. And if I go all the way to the left, we're not going to see them. So I'm going to go up to about 70%. And if you notice, they already start to look like they blend in. So I'm going to show you real quick the difference between 70 and 100%. So I'm about to move it back up to 100%. So if you look at the starfish, this is 70, that's 100% where it was before. So we'll move that back down to 70. That looks like it blends in a little bit more. If you have anything, that would help to do that, that's fine. You can also change the color of different things. So again, here I have my starfish. I'm still in that layer. If you go up to image adjustments, there's a whole lot of different things that you can do to your images. You can deal with the brightness of them, the contrast, exposure, vibrance, hue, saturation. I'm going to want you to take a moment while you're practicing and really take a look at some of these. So let's first start out with brightness and contrast. So if I click that, it's going to bring up some slider bars. And if you just want to slide up and down, you could take a look and see what these do to your piece. So on the left side, it's a little bit darker. We can, if we want it to be slightly darker, that's fine. The contrast obviously does some different things to it, all right? Just make sure that preview is selected. So I'm going to cancel that because I don't really feel anything needs to be done. But at this point, you have a general idea of how you can move an image from one, or parts of an image from one to another. You know how to scale it, to resize it, and you also now know how to work with the adjusting the image a little bit.